Hello, so here I come again. So this is our first class in the new sequence. So the new sequence, as you saw in the anticipation, is about musicals. So here you can see lots of examples of musical, extremely famous, old and new ones, so such as The Lion King, West Side Story, Mamma Mia, High School Musicals, or Newsies that we saw in another sequence. So we saw that musicals can be either a play, or so a play in a theater, in a live performance, or a film. And a musical includes three things. So it includes acting, it includes dancing, and it includes singing. So this genre is extremely famous in the US and in London. So in the US, the famous district is Manhattan, and in Manhattan, so here in blue, in Manhattan you find Broadway. So Broadway is a road, is a very widely and well-known road, which is at the heart of the American commercial and theatrical industry. So just here to remind you that in New York you've got 5 districts, or another name is 5 boroughs. So this road, where in this road, in Broadway Avenue, you can find lots of theaters, and all these theaters, or another name is playhouses. These theaters show lots of musicals, which are extremely touristic and which are extremely attractive for tourists and locals too. This area, this theatrical area, is extremely dense, extremely condensed, because you've got only one road which is packed with theaters. So here are the famous images that you already know. So here with lots of examples and posters of musicals like Hair, Phantom of the Opera, West Side Story, Chicago. And here you've got a very famous theater, a famous and classical building. So this area can be compared to another one in London. So here in the West End of London, so the West End of London, as the name can suggest, is in the west of London, and at the end of the west of London, and it's also situated. So here you can see the Thame, the river crossing London, and all these theaters are north of the Thame. So here you've got a map where you've got different theaters. This area is, if you have been to London and if you can try to visualize, is next to Hyde Park, right? So these are the famous images now this time about London. But this area is a bit bigger than Broadway, and less condensed and less packed. But it's the same. It's still the center and the city center for entertainment, and a very fashionable area. So you can see, and we'll see that in the text, that the theaters in London are a bit older, a bit more classical, and they are really synonymous of history, because you can see an architecture which is architecture inside and outside, which is really classical, and lots of decoration inside. So now if we go back to the text, so this text is about comparison between the theaters of Broadway and the theaters of London, of the West End district. So we can see in the article that the journalist compares different aspects, And so the two districts are really similar, but on some criteria, one seems better than the other. So if we start, so in green, so this is the what makes London theatres better than Broadway, and in red or pink, it's why the Broadway theatres are better than the London theatres. Okay, so take your text, take your two pens, and underline while I'm talking. Right? So in terms of capacity, Broadway theatres are better than London theatres. In terms of, so here it's in terms of general capacity, total capacity of all the theatres. But if we talk about theatres individually, the London theatres have bigger theatres, so there are more people who can come and see a musical in one theatre. So you've got more people than any Broadway theatres in one single theatre. So they compare also the audiences. Okay, the audiences are the people who come to see the musical in the theatres. So they say that British audiences are more sophisticated and they are more regular theatre goers. In terms of tickets, so here they compare the capacity, here they compare the audience, here they compare the prices. So in terms of prices, the tickets in West End, so in London, are cheaper than in Broadway. What we saw with the photos of the inside the theatres, the theatres in London, are older, so they are more beautiful buildings. They have more historical values and they have more decoration. So on the contrary, the Broadway theatres are newer. They are less old, and if they are less old, they have more new technology or more facilities or services included in the theatres. So, as we say, more toilets, more leg room, and better disabled access. As we saw, Broadway is mainly a road, whereas the London district seems to be more a district, and as you saw on the map, the theatres are scattered in different roads and different streets. So it makes the fact that Broadway is more condensed, it's smaller and more condensed, and than a London theatre. Right, so these are all the comparison between the differences between the two types of theatres and two types of districts. The journalist also underlines, so here you can take a blue pen or another pen than green and red. He also shows the common points between the two types of theatres and districts. So they both attract movie and TV stars because they are extremely famous places. They both have last-minute rushes. It means you can buy tickets at the last minute, and they are usually less expensive. So this is it for the common points. And what I circled are the words that are connected to musicals and that you will have to learn and include in your mind map. That's what we're going to see at the end of the video. So this idea of pooling is a synonym of attract. This idea of competition, because we saw that musicals are an entertainment for people, for an audience, but it's also a business, and in a business you still have an economic form of competition to make the more profit than the others and to attract more people than the others. The here you've got the verb cater, which is a synonym of welcome, to express how the theaters welcome the audience inside the theater. So pull in, as we saw, it's a synonym for attract. And then you've got the word standing ovation. So we use the same word as in French, where all the people stand up at the end and clap. This idea of attend a performance is to go and see a performance, to go and see a play. And a matinee, they use the French words, but it's not in the morning. It's a show in the afternoon, and usually it's less expensive than a show at night or in the evening. So this is it for the text. So make sure that you have underlined the common point of the theaters, the differences between the theaters, and that you have circled the new words. Now you can take your copybook. And we're going to talk about the lesson. So this is the first lesson of the sequence. So I'm going to read it and then I'm going to comment it. So, Broadway in New York and the West End in London are both popular and touristic attraction. I'm starting again. Broadway in New York and the West End in London are both popular and touristic district, as they are the entertainment center of the city. Both pull in or attract lots of tourists in their well-known famous theaters showing musicals. They attract movie and TV stars, but the West End has a little more. Broadway has a higher capacity overall, while the West End has bigger theaters. Audiences are more sophisticated in the West End, but both districts have good value last-minute tickets. Yet tickets are usually cheaper in London. Broadway theaters usually have better facilities, whereas West End theaters have more ornate decoration, as they are older. Finally, Broadway is much smaller than the West End. You take you'll have to write the lesson as usual, and you'll have to codify the lesson with the usual colors that we are using. So in red, the verb. Highlight in yellow the new words, or the words that you need to learn and to revise. So here you've got the synonym pull in, attract, well and famous. Okay, I think there's nothing really complicated. Then I box the words which connect and which can create links between parts of the sentence or different sentences. So here you've got a word, both, that you find here, both popular and touristic, and here both district. So both is a word which expresses a similarity between two elements. You can't use it to compare three elements. It's only for two elements. Here both compare Broadway and the West End. So you can use both with adjective, as here, popular and touristic, and you can use both with the noun, both districts. Then you've got as. Okay, we have already seen this. It's a synonym of since, or it's a synonym of because. It's a way to change, to express cause and reason. Here you've got but, which is similar of yet, and which create a contrast and which expresses an opposition between two sentences or two parts of the sentence. And then maybe it's new for you, while and whereas. They are both expressing a comparison between two parts of a sentence. While and whereas are found in the middle of a sentence and not at the beginning, like yet and sometimes but. Okay, but whereas is in the middle of a sentence to express a comparison. So as to express cause, and finally, a link word to express this idea of conclude.